Welcome back to Nightmare Crypt. If you're listening to this alone, keep it that way. Lock the door, turn the volume down just enough that you can still hear what's happening around you. What I'm about to tell you isn't a story, it's a confession. And if I hesitate, if my voice cuts out, it's because I'm still listening for the sound that started all of this. Now, listen carefully. I'm writing this because something irreversible has already happened, and pretending otherwise is the last lie I can't afford to keep. I don't know if I'm being watched right now. I don't know if it's already inside the house. What I do know is that every time I stop moving, every time I let the silence settle, I hear it again. The slow, deliberate sound that changed everything. It wasn't loud. That's what still messes with me. It didn't crash or scream or announce itself like the movies teach you to expect. It was quiet, careful, intentional. The kind of sound you only notice when you're already paying attention, when you're already uneasy and don't know why. I should have left the first night I heard it. I tell myself that over and over. But I didn't, because at the time, nothing seemed wrong enough to justify running. And that's the part I need you to understand if you're going to believe me. Everything that happened could be explained. Every step of it had a rational answer, right up until it didn't. I've gone back through my phone recordings, my notes, the timestamps on security footage. I've replayed conversations in my head so many times, they feel like someone else's memories now. I keep hoping I'll find the moment where I made it all up, where stress or exhaustion twisted something harmless into this nightmare. But every trail leads back to the same thing. The sound. That slow, tightening noise, metal biting into metal. If you ever hear something like that in a place it shouldn't be, don't do what I did. Don't stand still and listen. Don't wait for it to finish. And don't convince yourself that curiosity is harmless. I'm telling you this now because I don't think I have much time left before it finishes turning. I moved into the house in early October, just outside a small town in western Pennsylvania. The kind of place with one grocery store, 2 gas stations, and more churches than traffic lights. I took the job because it was quiet. Property management for a cluster of old rentals owned by a family trust. Mostly inspections, paperwork, and being on call if something broke. The house they assigned me to live in came with the job. Late 1800s, 2 stories, narrow windows, and a long gravel driveway that made every arrival sound louder than it should have been. It smelled like old wood and dust, no matter how much I cleaned. The heat worked, the water ran, the locks turned. That was enough for me. My routine settled fast. Coffee at 6, emails by 7, inspections until late afternoon. Evenings were quiet, too quiet sometimes, but I chalked that up to finally being somewhere without city noise bleeding through the walls. The first strange thing happened on the 3rd night. I was brushing my teeth when I heard a faint sound from downstairs. Not a bang or a footstep, more like pressure, like someone leaning on something heavy. I froze, toothpaste dripping down my chin, listening. It stopped. I stood there longer than I want to admit, heart thudding, then told myself it was the house settling. Everyone knows that. But later that night, lying in bed, I heard it again. A slow creak, followed by a soft, measured turn. I sat up, straining to place it. It sounded mechanical, but wrong somehow, too deliberate. I waited for it to repeat. It didn't. The next morning I checked every door, every window, everything was locked, nothing out of place. I laughed it off. I even said it out loud alone in the kitchen, just to hear a human voice. Old house, I said, get used to it. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Over the next week, the sound came back, always at night. Never at the same time. Sometimes it was faint enough that I questioned whether I'd imagined it. Other times it was close enough that I could feel it in my teeth. It always followed the same pattern. A pause, a creak, then that slow, tightening turn. Not because I thought something supernatural was happening, but because lack of sleep messes with your memory. I needed proof for myself. October 12th, 1:17 a.m., downstairs. October 14th, 11:42 p.m., hallway. The locations didn't make sense. The house wasn't that big. Sound should travel consistently. This didn't. By the second week, I was exhausted. I'd lie in bed waiting for it, dreading the silence more than the noise. Some nights I thought I heard breathing. After it stopped, I told myself it was my own. I set up a cheap camera in the living room, motion activated. I felt stupid doing it, but the footage gave me something solid to hold on to. The first night, nothing. The second night, nothing. The third night, the camera activated at 2:06 a.m. The clip showed an empty room, no movement, no shadows. Clear as day. Creak. Turn. I replayed it until my hands started shaking. The camera hadn't moved, nothing in frame had moved, and yet the sound was there, closer than it had ever been. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the edge of the bed with the lights on, listening to the house breathe around me. At some point, just before dawn, I heard it again, right outside the bedroom door. This is where I need to pause and say something just once. If you're still with me, if you want to hear how far this went, subscribe to Nightmare Crypt now. Not because this is entertainment, but because stories like this don't end when the telling does. I don't remember standing up, but I remember my hand on the doorknob. I remember how cold it felt, even through my palm. The sound came again, louder, slower. It wasn't coming from the door, it was coming from inside it. I stepped back, every instinct screaming at me to run, but my feet wouldn't move. That was the moment I realized something fundamental had changed. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was waiting. The knob turned on its own. Not fast, not violent, just enough to test the latch. I screamed then, a raw, panic sound that didn't feel like it came from me. I backed into the wall as the knob turned again, farther this time. The door didn't open. It didn't need to. The pressure on the other side was enough to bow the wood inward, just slightly, like something leaning close to listen. And then it stopped. The silence afterward was worse than the noise. It pressed in on me until my ears rang. When the sun came up, the door looked normal. No marks, no damage. I checked the screws on the hinges with shaking fingers. They were tight, untouched. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The screws weren't all the same. Just one was newer, shiny, recently turned. I don't remember deciding to leave. I just remember throwing clothes into a bag, my hands moving too fast to control. I made it halfway down the stairs when the sound came from below me, stronger than ever. The banister twisted under my grip. The walls groaned. Every screw in the house started to turn at once. The noise was unbearable, metal screaming through wood, slow and relentless. I collapsed, covering my ears, but it didn't help. The pressure built until I thought my skull would split. Something gave way behind the walls. I felt the house shift, tighten, like it was being drawn inward. Then abruptly it stopped. I don't know how long I lay there. When I finally stood, the front door was open. I ran. I didn't look back. I know that now. I'm not safe. The sound follows me. Sometimes it's in hotel rooms. Sometimes it's in public bathrooms. Always faint. Always patient. I'm telling you this because if you ever hear that slow, careful turning where it doesn't belong, you need to understand something I didn't. It isn't breaking in. It's tightening the world around you. And once it starts, it never stops turning. I didn't go back to the house. I didn't call the property owners. I didn't report anything to the police because I wouldn't have known where to start. My house tried to tighten itself around me. Isn't something you can say out loud and expect to be taken seriously. I drove until my hands stopped shaking. I pulled into a 24-hour gas station off the highway and sat there with the engine running, watching people come and go, like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just tilted sideways. That was the first time I heard it follow me. Not loud, not obvious. Just beneath the hum of the fluorescent lights inside the store, buried under the hiss of the coffee machine. A faint metallic tension, a turn that never finished. I froze in the aisle, holding a bottle of water I didn't remember picking up. I waited for it to stop. It didn't. It only softened, like it was learning how much noise it was allowed to make here. I left without buying anything. I checked into a motel an hour later. Cheap, low ceiling, smelled like bleach and stale smoke. I shoved a chair under the door handle and slept in my clothes. When I woke up, the chair was still there. The door was still locked, but one of the screws in the strike plate was missing. I told myself someone had stolen it. I told myself anything that didn't involve the truth, starting to settle in my chest like wet cement. The next few days blurred together. I bounced between motels, never staying more than one night. I avoided older buildings. I avoided anywhere quiet. I kept the TV on at all times, even when I wasn't watching it, because the noise felt like armor. The sound didn't care. It showed up in the spaces between things, between commercials, between footsteps in the hallway, between breaths when I lay perfectly still and tried not to exist too loudly. I started noticing patterns. The sound always came from behind me, not directly, never obvious, always just out of line of sight, like it understood angles better than I did. If I turned too fast, it would stop. If I stayed still, it would continue, slow and deliberate, like a hand on a screwdriver, testing resistance. I stopped sleeping. When I did pass out, I dreamed of pressure, of being compressed inch by inch until there was no room left for my thoughts. On the fourth night, I woke up to silence so complete it hurt my ears. That's when the panic hit. I sat up, heart racing, scanning the room. The TV was off, the AC was off, even the buzzing neon sign outside the window had gone dark. Then I heard it, not turning, waiting. I don't know how else to describe it. A tension in the air, like something was braced against the world, ready to apply force. My chest tightened, my vision tunneled. I remember whispering no, over and over, not to anything specific, just to the moment itself. The sound resumed, closer than ever. It wasn't coming from the walls this time, it was coming from the bed, from beneath the mattress, a slow, controlled twist, springs groaning under a pressure they weren't meant to take. The bed frame shuddered, not violently, but insistently, like it was being adjusted to fit something underneath it. I rolled off the bed and hit the floor hard, scrambling backward until my shoulders hit the bathroom door. I couldn't breathe. My hands were numb. I watched the mattress dip in the center, just slightly, as if someone were kneeling there. Nothing appeared. Nothing revealed itself. It didn't need to. I fled the room barefoot, keys and phone clenched in my hand, and didn't stop running until I reached the car. I drove until dawn, with the radio blasting, my foot heavy on the gas, afraid that if I slowed down, it would catch up. I wish I could say there was a moment where it stopped escalating. There wasn't. It learned. That's the only word that fits. It learned how much pressure I could take before breaking. It learned when to stop just short of being undeniable. It learned patience better than I ever could. Then months. I stopped keeping track of where I was sleeping. I started avoiding mirrors because I looked compressed. Like stress had physically narrowed me. People noticed. Coworkers asked if I was okay. A cashier once asked if I was sick. I wanted to tell them. I wanted someone else to hear it, to confirm it wasn't just inside my head. But the sound never came when anyone else was close enough to notice. Until the night it did. I was staying with an old friend in Ohio. He'd insisted after hearing how bad I sounded on the phone. His house was newer, clean, open floor plan. I felt stupid being afraid there. We were sitting in the living room, beers on the table, some stupid show playing in the background. I almost relaxed, almost. Then the floor creaked behind the couch. My whole body went cold. I held my breath, waiting. My friend laughed at something on the TV. The sound came again, unmistakable now. A controlled turn, slow enough to savor. "Did you hear that?" I asked. He paused the show. The room went quiet. We both listened. Nothing. "I don't hear anything," he said. I was about to apologize, to play it off, when the bookshelf against the far wall shifted. Not fell, not collapsed, shifted. Every screw along the frame rotated at once, just a fraction, producing a low, unified groan. My friend stood up so fast his beer spilled. "What the hell was that?" he said. The sound stopped immediately. The bookshelf settled back into place. No damage, no mess. We stared at it for a long time. He laughed nervously. "House stuff," he said. "Old buildings, man." I watched his smile fade as I realized something important. It hadn't wanted him to understand. It wanted him to doubt. I left that night. I didn't explain. I couldn't. He texted me the next day asking if I was okay. I didn't respond, because the sound was already back. It's quieter now, subtler. I think it's close to finishing something. The turns are smaller, more precise, like fine adjustments instead of force. Sometimes I feel it in my joints, in my teeth, in the way my thoughts tighten until there's only one direction they can move. I'm writing this because I've started finding loose screws wherever I go, on tables, on door frames, on the floor near my bed. They're all warm when I pick them up. If you ever hear it, really hear it, don't wait like I did. Don't stand still and listen, because it isn't trying to get in, it's making space. And when it's done tightening the world around you, there won't be anywhere left to run.